Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my first impressions look on the Puma MB.03. So this is Lamelo Ball's third signature shoe with Puma, and of course his line has actually been pretty nice. I've been enjoying it. The MB1 of course was super nice, the MB2, and now it's the MB3, right? So this shoe retails for 125 bucks, so it's pretty much the same exact price as his older model. So if you guys do want to cop, I try to leave an affiliate link in the description box. It is available on Puma. But anyways, let's get started right off with the Tracciones, and in this color we have kind of like a semi-translucent rubber, right, with this kind of like green slime color, right? And it also says rare. Cool, right? It says rare right here. We have a pretty interesting traction pattern as well. It's kind of like a flower shape, and I don't know why, but it reminds me of the SpongeBob sky. You guys know SpongeBob the sky? That's what it kind of reminds me of as far as the pattern goes on the outsole and also the pattern on the midsole, right? But how does the traction feel so far? It actually feels pretty nice. On my wood floors, there is a very nice bite. However, not a super loud squeak. It's very, very quiet, especially comparing it to the MB1 and also the MB2, right? And it says rare on all of these outsoles, which is pretty cool, I guess. And all of these are pretty much translucent outsoles, right? The MB2 has a very loud squeak and a very nice bite, and same thing with the MB1. I don't know why, but it doesn't squeak that much. Of course, it has nothing to do with performance, but maybe they changed up the rubber compound a little bit. Maybe, you know, once I break it in, it does start to squeak a little bit more, but we'll have to see on that. But right now, as far as the performance goes, the bite seems very good. I do like the overall kind of how it feels as far as the traction goes. And as far as the durability goes, the rubber is actually pretty hard, a lot harder than I thought. And it seems like it'll be a lot better than the MB2. The MB2 had very thin grooves. The MB1 probably is the best, however. The rubber is the hardest in the one, but the 3 is actually not bad. So I feel like it'll be pretty nice for outdoor use as well. And also another thing that I love that they keep including in Lamelo Ball shoes is the outsole curvature, right? So it's not crazy, you know, especially comparing to like the Kyrie 2, 3, and 4, which has a very prominent curve, especially starting from the middle of the outsole, and curves really like a lot, right? But yeah, I mean, the MB1 had the most curve. The MB1 has the most pronounced curve comparing it to the 2 and the 3. However, the 3 and the 2 also still have a very nice curve, basically where the ball of your foot is. So that feels super nice, you know, kind of keeps you on the balls of your feet, especially when you're doing crossovers and stuff like that, cuts. I just love how that feels. It reminds me a lot of old school Kyries. I guess the MB1 reminded me more of like the Kyrie 2, 3, and 4, and then the MB2 and 3 reminded me more of like the more modern Kyries, like the 5, 6, 7, where there was still a nice little curve, but it's not as curved as the 2, 3, and 4, right? But there's still a nice curve here in the MB3, and the rubber comes up here on the medial side, so you get better grip when you're doing like these types of movements. So the outsole for the MB3 seems pretty nice so far. And now moving on to the heel to toe transition, also it does feel pretty smooth, right? So here in the heel we have a nice curve shape and kind of exposed midsole, right? But it does get caged in the back of the heel right here. You can see the outsole does come up to cage it. However, it's a very hard rubber, right? It doesn't really compress at all, especially comparing to like the Harden Volume 2, if you guys remember that, or like the AG4. The AG4, the rubber did come up to cage the foam a little bit, but it was actually a lot softer. This one is really stiff, right? And also here in the forefoot, we have a nice curve shape and a little bit of forefoot flex. It's actually pretty stiff. It does flex a little bit, however. It doesn't really flex at all here in the midfoot, of course, for better torsional support. The MB2 had a lot more flex, and also the MB1 had a little bit more flex. I don't know why it's so stiff. I mean, it does still have a little bit of flex, but I have to put a lot more force into it to flex it. So, but it still feels pretty nice. It still feels pretty smooth as far as the overall shape goes. So I do like that. However, it does feel a little bit more stiff than the MB1 and the MB2, right? Now moving on to the cushioning setup. So we have full length nitro foam, right? And it is pretty caged, but I mean the MB1 is definitely the most caged. However, you guys remember the 3 X's here on the lateral side and the heel. Of course, I tried on all of these before filming this just to see how it feels, and the MB1 definitely is the stiffest, especially here. The MB2 I would say is the softest, and the 3 is still pretty soft, but it doesn't have as much compression, it feels like right now, than the 2, right? But yeah, it's just nitro foam. The core feel is average, I would say, and there is just a tiny bit of compression from the actual midsole. The step-in comfort is really nice. Puma gives us really nice plush insoles for all of their hoop shoes, so it feels very, very plush, very comfortable for step-in comfort. However, the strobel board is pretty stiff. I feel like they should make a softer strobel board, but step-in coverage is still really nice because of the thicker insole. So yeah, I mean, it's a very similar feeling cushioning setup in all of his shoes. It's pretty much the same. I mean, it's full-length nitrofoam, It's just the cage is a little bit different, and how it feels is just a tiny bit different, but for the most part, it's pretty much the exact same as the 2 and the 1. I would say the 2 and the 3 is a little bit more similar, however, right? So there is the cushioning setup there. Moving on to the material, so we have EM. They're calling this an EM. It feels like it's basically like a dual layered type of material, right? So you can see the claw marks, which is a pretty cool design, I guess, right? So it's like a mesh material, and over that we have like a textile material that they probably glued on and stitched on. But yeah, it does feel a good amount stiffer than all of his other shoes. It's probably because I just got it in. It's not broken in really at all, but it does feel like really supportive. And also it does feel a little bit thicker than the MB1 and also the MB2, right? The MB1 is actually quite thin, right? And once you break it in, it does get pretty soft. And then the 2 is definitely the thinnest. The MB2 definitely has the worst quality materials. However, the screen mesh is super thin. It felt nice on foot because it did provide a good amount of support, right? The 3 definitely feels the most supportive and rigid and also like stiff. I mean, it does feel like, I guess, pretty nice on foot, like cozy and stuff like that, but I'm sure it'll probably break in very nicely. One thing that I am worried about, however, is the eyelets. You guys see the eyelets here? There's just like a really thin type of like strap. It doesn't feel like it'll be super durable because it is a thin type of material. I feel like if you really tighten it down, it might rip, so I guess be careful on that. Also the tongue, I mean, in all of Lamelo Ball's shoes, the tongue has been very plush, which I really like. It's pretty much the exact same, and as far as the design goes, it's pretty much identical to the 1, if you guys can see that. So yeah, there's a nice bit of padding, feels nice. It's a half booty construction tongue as well, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit, and also here in the ankle area there is a good amount of padding, right? So yeah, I mean, the uppers also feels very similar. I would say the 3 definitely feels like the thickest and also the most supportive, you know what I mean? So we'll have to see on how I like it. However, it does feel pretty nice on foot so far. And also, I guess we have padding on the outside of the shoe, right? Which is pretty interesting. And as far as the fit goes, so I did go up half a size, right? And it fits me very well, and it fits me exactly like the MB2. I don't know what they're, like, all the shoe companies, I feel like their shoes are running a little short. So for the MB2, I went true to size, and same thing with the MB1, right? But if you check the actual size of the shoe, it's pretty much the exact same size. Look at that. It's the exact same size, so I would suggest going up half a size for the MB3. I don't know why all the shoes I've been getting recently have been running a little short, but they have. But yeah, I went up half a size and it fits me very well. My toes go pretty close to the edge of the shoe. It's a very snug fit here in the toe box, and also width-wise, it is slightly narrow as well. Pretty much the same exact fit as the MB1 and the MB2. It's just I went up half a size for this, right? So yeah, I would suggest most people go up half a size, and if you have a wide foot or you want a roomier fit, probably go up a full size, right? But for me, going up half a size, it fits me very well. And now moving on to the support in lockdown, I mean, this is definitely the most supportive feeling material out in his entire line, and I've never had any issues with support in any of his shoes, right? So lateral containment feels really good. As you guys can see here in the forefoot, like I said, the material feels very supportive, and also we have a bit of fuse here in the toe box area to stiffen up the material. We have a little bit of the slime coming up, acting as sidewall, I guess, here in the midfoot. And then here in the heel, we have a very stiff internal TPU heel counter, feels like. So lateral containment feels like it's gonna be good, and also lateral stability. There's actually not really an outrigger, but I guess the outsole and midsole do protrude out a little bit, as you guys can see. So we'll have to see on that, but because of this outsole curvature, it keeps you more on like the medial side of your foot, so that feels nice. It'll probably definitely help with lateral stability as well. And of course, this is a mid top shoe, and you guys can see the overall silhouette of every single one of his shoes is pretty much the exact same. It's kind of hard to tell which shoe is which if you just look at the overall outline of the shoe, which I think is pretty cool. He has like a shoe that he likes, but it all feels very similar, you know what I mean, on foot, right? So checking the weight of the shoe, I feel like it'll be kind of heavy. All of his shoes have been a little bit on the heavier side of things. Yeah, 13.9 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 13.8 ounces. And then the MB2 is 12 or 13 ounces. The MB2 definitely is the lightest, probably because of the screen mesh type of material, right? So yeah, almost 14 ounces is quite heavy, you know, and it probably has to do with all this outsole, right? All this rubber, and also the nitro foam isn't super light, and also the upper, there's a lot of padding and stuff like that. So definitely isn't the lightest feeling shoe, but it doesn't feel super bulky. However, you know, nothing is like protruding out like crazy. Like it doesn't feel super bulky as far as the midsole goes. But yeah, like just trying on all the shoes, it all feels very, very similar. You know, the overall feel of the upper, the cushion, the traction, all of these shoes have like the outsole curvature as well. So I guess Lamelo, he knows what he likes, and this is probably the type of shoe that he wants right now. But you know, it just all feels very similar. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot to differentiate. You know what I mean? So there is the weight there. The MB2 definitely is the lightest. And now moving on to the aesthetics, I guess I like it. It's a very interesting, unconventional look. It looks like this shoe, you kind of like jumped into slime, and the slime kind of splattered over the midsole and also the upper a little bit, which is a pretty cool design, I guess. And you can see the claw marks from the upper, which I think is pretty cool. I definitely feel like the 1 looks the best, and then the 3, and then the 2. Right? But I guess the 2 definitely had really dope colorways though, so the colorways definitely say the 2. So tell us what you guys think looks the best down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, the MB3 definitely feels really nice, you know what I mean? And the only thing I don't like is the weight. You know, it is pretty heavy, but if it's responsive, if the traction is good, and I don't have any issues with support, which I don't think I'll have, it'll probably be a very responsive shoe, and I'll probably like it just like the MB1 and also the MB2, right? So anyways, that about concludes my first impressions look on the Puma MB3. Again, if you guys do want to cop, try to leave a link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.